Hold up. What the heck? Hear me? Can you hear me, Rob? Am I coming through? Let's see what I can get here. Make sure the sound is coming through. Mic check. Okay. Okay. There we go. All right. So this is one of the first press conferences from Chief Talbot. So we're gonna go back over this real quick.
I'm the police chief for the Hampton Police Division. I'd like to echo Sergeant Williams' comments. Without them, we would not have been able to travel as far as we've been able to travel in this investigation. This is easily one of the most comprehensive investigations. We are all called Code Bigsby. Cody Bigsby was reported missing on January at about 9 o'clock in the morning. Mr. Cody Bigsby was a 43-year-old male, called 911 and reported that his 3-year-old son, Cody, was missing. Mr. Bigsby reported that his son was missing from his home on Renelette Drive here in the city of Hampton. The Hampton Police Division responded, including our patrol division and our detective bureau as well. We immediately began searching inside and outside of the residence. Our search of the residence, many resources as we possibly could on that first day. That has continued up until today. While we were searching, Mr. Bigsby and his children were transported to our detective bureau to help us with the investigation. Mr. Bigsby ultimately, through the investigation that we conducted, was arrested and charged with 7 counts of felony child neglect. This was based on his report of leaving his children home alone. He reported that he left home alone his 5-year-old, his 4-year-old, and his 2-year-old twins. This was reported to have occurred on numerous occasions. He reported that it was too much of a burden to bring his kids along with him. Our investigation is not over. It will not end with that arrest. In fact, in some ways, our investigation is going to start and become more intense now. Our partners, in particular, our partners with the FBI, have provided us with an extensive amount of forensic data for us to review, and process, and follow up on. That will take an extended period of time. We have many interviews to conduct. We still have areas to search, and we have many leads to follow. We will not stop here with this arrest. With that, do you have any questions?
Hey, Chief, you had said that, well, I'm trying to find out, can you say when the last time that Cody, when was the last time Cody was actually seen by someone outside of his father or his family? And I say that in part because the court records indicate that on January 25th, one of the charges pertained to leaving him alone on January 25th. I don't know if there's evidence that outside of the father for that, or you know, what is the evidence that you have? When was the last time you saw it?
I obviously won't speak to the evidence that we have specifically. We are still investigating the last time that Codi was seen alive and well by anyone. So if there's anybody out there that might be able to help us with that, we would like to know. The charges that speak to the events that occurred on January 25th are based on what we've done up until this point in the investigation.
Being that there is no Amber Alert issue, would Hampton Police Department be willing to stand behind the Codi alert that would alert citizens in a local area of a kid going missing, even if it just starts locally and expands from there? Would the Hampton Police Department support something like that?
I'd like to continue to focus on Codi Bigsby as the primary focus right now. At some point moving forward, I think there will be a lot of time to evaluate whether or not we do the right thing to keep all kids safe. I will say Amber Alert is a great tool. It was created in 1996. In 2022, we're all connected. I don't think that we had any difficulty getting the word out about this missing child. And to this day, we're not having any difficulty with that.
Chief, one of the biggest questions that people are having in the community is where is Codi's mother? Is she being questioned? What can you tell us to kind of put some of these questions that folks have to bed as to why she's not out here scouring and searching for her son as well?
I appreciate everybody who's concerned and has those types of questions. I think we should all have questions when a 4-year-old child goes missing. We know where his mother is. We've spoken to her, and she has answered our questions.
Is there someone else that could be involved in the disappearance of Codi that you're looking into that maybe worked with him? Is that a possibility that you're looking into?
We've found no evidence to support someone else involved.
Chief, this is Bianca. I just have a quick question. Are you guys looking outside of the state of Virginia, maybe to some areas you see at this point, or your focus is just into Virginia?
Certainly, we're interested in any information that would lead someone to believe he's outside of the city of Hampton or the state of Virginia. We're certainly interested in that. Again, we have no information or facts or reasonable belief that that's the case.
Okay, no, I don't know.
Is that a question?
No, I was just thinking.
Okay. Sure.
Chief, is it still, Chief, is it still your belief that Codi Bigsby can be found alive? Do you still believe that 5 days after he was reported missing?
I will tell you that we are continuing to search and hope that we can bring Codi Bigsby home. With each day that passes, we become more and more concerned and we lose a little bit more hope. Obviously, the longer we go, the more tragic it feels.
Chief, is there any reason y'all was doing searches at Hershey's today? And what about Starbucks and what about the?
Yes, where we search, we have a reason to search.
Chief, is there any evidence that you found that Child Protective Services has intervened in, Codi Bigsby's family or follow-up? Like, I know that there's a.
It would be inappropriate for me to answer that question.
Chief, there's a lot of enforcement only allow 50 citizens a day to assist, and would that be a regular practice and not let more of the community assist? Because there were hundreds of people that wanted to help, and they were turned away from helping. So is that going to be a regular occurrence? 4-year-old folks missing, there's only 50 citizens allowed to assist.
We encouraged the public's participation. We had a tremendous amount, and we continue to get a tremendous amount of support from the public. We asked for a specific number of citizens to help us on a particular day. We didn't want to welcome to go out, check their yards, check their trash cans, check areas that they may know, recheck what you know that we did. We are certainly not sitting in some space where we want to prevent people from helping. But we got a significant amount of public support, which we appreciate.
Is Codi Bigsby still cooperating and answering your questions at this time?
He is in a jail cell right now.
Chief, why was it so hard on yesterday for his lawyer to get into the jail and speak with the father? Why was the lawyer denied access on yesterday to speak to his son?
Thank you. Mr. Bigsby is a 43-year-old man who's had a full career in the Army. He retired from a position of authority. He seems to be quite intelligent. He seems to be quite capable. And part of his capabilities seems to be understanding his rights. At no time did he request to see an attorney. Had he made such a request, we would have honored that request.
Do you know, did the children have like a regular babysitter? Who were they in contact with? Where are the other kids now?
We are not aware of a babysitter.
Where are the other children?
They're safe and thriving.
A few days ago, you said abduction was just not what the evidence was pointing to, and abduction usually some kind of violent act. Is there a chance he was handed off to a family member and a family member took that, or would you put that under the umbrella of abduction?
There's no evidence that he was handed off to a family member. I will say I've known a few 4-year-olds in my life. I don't know any who decide at any hour of the morning when it's dark to leave their home. I don't know any that do that. I don't believe that that's what happened this time either.
Chief, allegedly, they say he was not here. Y'all said on news multiple times. He was here voluntarily. It's alleged that he was not here voluntarily. Who was stayed here for 4 days and the child missing? Was he held against his will or in custody?
Next question, please.
So that's a yes or no.
Was he held against?
I think I answered. I think
You didn't answer.
I'll repeat my response. I'll repeat my response from earlier. Mr. Bigsby is a 43-year-old man with a full career in the United States
Was he
Army.
here voluntarily?
I'm going to finish my response, miss.
Was he
I'm
here
gonna finish my
voluntarily? It's a
response.
yes or no answer, sir.
He was a capable man who had
Still haven't
every
answered the question.
opportunity to ask for an attorney. He did not make such a request.
That was
If he
not the
would have
question.
made that request, we would have
That was
honored it.
not the question.
We have his family here. Can we hear from his family?
Next question, please.
We have his family here. Can we hear from his family?
Now, in hindsight, it kind of stands out to me that he is so emphatic about Corey never asked for an attorney. He didn't ask for legal representation at any time. And I'm wondering, how is it that he, as chief of police, was not participating in this interrogation on some level, if he was observing through the window or keeping tabs or anything, having someone to report back to him any major developments or whatever. It just seems odd to me in retrospect, knowing now that he had to come back and say, well, yes, he did ask for an attorney. There was a heated exchange, blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of weird to me now in hindsight.
But the charge, okay, so that's the part, and then would it have come about if his little boy had not gone missing?
I cannot answer that question. That would be speculation.
When it comes to the search over the next few days, is VDEM, is anybody pulling out resources, or is it still going full force? Do we have enough resources to keep going full force?
We will continue to investigate all the leads that we have available and search the areas where we need to search.
All agencies still helping if they can?
Yes, the agencies that have been helping have agreed to continue.
Chief, do you have reason to believe that Cody Bigsby is alive?
Each day, it becomes harder and harder to believe that Cody Bigsby is alive and well.
Can you say when the last time the mother spoke to Cody?
No, I cannot say.
Do you know when the last time?
I do not know.
If she didn't ask that question?
It would be inappropriate for me to answer that question.
Chief, I don't know if you can answer this. So when Corey contacted y'all and decided to dismiss him, had you returned from one of these situations where people left the children at home, came home, and Cody was missing, or were you not comment on that?
I'm not going to comment on that.
And Chief, for the record, some people really bother with most of the cases right now, now they're still not aware that they have the right to return. So that being said, did he at any time was notified of the attorney or someone's family hired a lawyer to see their client? Is it permissible for the attorney to see that person?
Mr. Sir,
Yeah, this press conference might have been after, but I'm pretty sure it was before he found out. The chief found out, because remember when he did that other press conference concerning that specifically, he was saying how he went back and watched the videotapes or whatever and did like basically his own investigation to find out what happened in that interrogation room. So I believe at this point, at this particular press conference, he was not aware of Corey asking for an attorney and being denied or ignored.
again, for everybody, I'm here for a 4-year-old child. I'm here for a 4-year-old child. His father was made aware of his rights. His father was absolutely made aware of his rights. We will continue to do everything possible to find his sons, or his child, that is permissible and appropriate. We've never taken a step that was impermissible or inappropriate.
Chief, can I ask you, a few days ago at a press conference, you said you do not believe that Cody may have gone missing at the 2 a.m. time that was originally put out. Can you say with confidence now that it's not what you meant?
What I said is that the facts that we had didn't match up with what we were being told in a number of cases. So we simply need to investigate more to determine when exactly he went missing.
Chief, for the record, we all are here for the child, but we
Okay, and I'm going to stop it right there because I think after that it kind of gets off of Corey and goes off into left field a little bit. So this is the press conference on the 14th, on Valentine's Day of 2022. And I believe this might be the press conference that I was looking for. Let's see here. Yeah, I believe this is the press conference I was looking for. Let's see what we got here.
Good afternoon. I'm Sergeant Williams with the Hampton Police Division's Public Information Office. I'm joined here today by Chief Talbot, Assistant Chief Gallup, Captain Coleman, Captain Price, Captain Scheck, and Captain Warren. On January 31st, 2022, at approximately 9:06 a.m., officers were called and responded to the 100 block of Ranelette Drive in reference to a missing juvenile, who we all know now as Codi Bigsby. Officers arrived on scene at 9:16 a.m., and 8 minutes later, multiple K-9 units arrived to assist. Within the hour, command staff and multiple detectives were already on scene. At 10:47 a.m., we formally requested the FBI to bring additional resources and technical support. At 11 a.m., the Hampton Police Division disseminated a press release and social media blast, which reached hundreds of thousands of people within our community. With the assistance of the local media, that reach extended well into the millions. By 11:30, the FBI arrived on scene, bringing additional agents as well as a plane to our aid. At 12:29, a reverse 911 call went out to residents and neighborhoods requesting information. By 1 p.m., officers had already searched the immediate surrounding areas of the apartment complex. Officers and detectives began canvassing every house, while K-9 searches continued and drones were searching from the air. Additionally, Mr. Bigsby, Corey's father, had arrived at police headquarters and began speaking with investigators. In the coming days, the search would evolve into a massive coordinated effort with our federal, regional, and local partners, to include citizen volunteers. Searches continued by land, air, and sea. Dive teams were deployed, and drone teams scanned over 900 acres of remote marsh, waterways, and woodlands. As our search was taking place, investigative and forensic personnel worked around the clock to gather and process evidence to speak to anyone that might have knowledge about Codi's whereabouts. On the evening of Thursday, February 3rd, Corey Bigsby was arrested and transported to lockup, where he was served with 7 charges for felony child neglect. On Friday, February 4th, our search efforts began to transition into an investigative phase, and the massive grid search came to a slow conclusion. Since that day, our goal to find Codi has not changed. Our search has not stopped. Investigators are continuing to process immense amounts of evidence and follow up with every possible lead. With that, Chief Talbot will now provide additional comments.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Mark Talbot. I'm the police chief for the Hampton Police Division. I'm going to begin this press conference like I started all of the press conferences with this case. I'm here on behalf of 4-year-old Codi Bigsby. It has been 14 heart-wrenching days since he was reported missing by his father, Corey Bigsby. Sergeant Williams did a great job laying out the timeline of events, and he did an excellent job laying out all the work that we've put into this investigation. I am extremely proud of the work that was done, not only by the Hampton Police Division, but by our partner agencies and by members of the public who have been out there every single day with us. For that, we are extremely grateful. You know, an investigation like this has a lot of moving parts. You've just heard that. One aspect of an investigation of this nature is that it is important that I keep in my mind all of the aspects of this investigation that ensure that it has the integrity that it needs to have. And that is primarily why I'm speaking to you today. This past Friday, in an effort to ensure that everything that we've done has been consistent with our best and our obligation, we reviewed video footage of some of the interviews involving Corey Bigsby. So Mr. Bigsby came to the Hampton Police Division, I'll remind you, on January 31st to assist with this investigation. He had his 3 small children with him. Around 2:30 that day, Mr. Bigsby sat for a formal interview with our detectives. The detective in that case began the conversation by reminding Mr. Bigsby that he was there voluntarily, he was not being detained by us, and that he had the right to an attorney if he chose to have an attorney with him. Mr. Bigsby decided to waive his rights at that time and to answer our questions. He continued to answer questions for several hours, and at some point it was suggested that we would like Mr. Bigsby to take a polygraph examination. Part of that polygraph examination that wasn't given by our agency, it was in fact given by a federal agency, involves, again, being reminded of his rights to an attorney, a right not to speak, a right not to incriminate himself. He received and he waived those rights, and he took the polygraph examination. Upon the conclusion of the polygraph examination, Mr. Bigsby resumed his interview with our detectives and our partner agencies. In the midst of this follow-up interview, there was a heated exchange between Mr. Bigsby and the lead detective in this case. The heated exchange came about when there was a discussion about the result of that polygraph exam. I won't discuss the result, I'll just say there was a heated back and forth. In the midst of this heated exchange, Mr. Bigsby made a statement that I believe was mishandled by the Hampton Police Division. He made a statement that indicated that he wanted to have legal counsel there with him. My assessment of his statement in that moment and a statement that he made several minutes later that was similar, expressing a desire for legal counsel, my assessment is that his desires should have been honored. They weren't. Ultimately, a decision like this that surrounds what we will do, what the court system will do in response to this episode is for the Commonwealth Attorney, it's for Anton Bell. But we have our own obligation here. We didn't meet it, frankly. We have our own obligation to maintain the highest standards of conduct, to make sure that we're not skirting any lines that appear to be inappropriate or are questionable. We also have a standard that involves every member in this organization providing clear and concise and accurate information all the way up the chain of command so that we can make the best decisions as it relates to any investigation, in particular when it comes to seeking justice for a 4-year-old child. To give you a sense of the timing of what occurred, the problematic behavior that was brought to my attention was brought to me late in the afternoon this past Friday. As soon as we discovered this, we ordered the entire command staff into the police station to do a full audit of all of the video recordings of our interactions with Mr. Bigsby. That occurred throughout the weekend. Most of us were here all weekend completing that. Our analysis, our audit of that video left us in a much better place in terms of understanding what happened. It also allows us to be reassured and allows me to reassure the public that the charges that were filed against Mr. Bigsby are appropriate. Mr. Bigsby is the only person that we've found evidence against to indicate we need to continue to pay attention to him in order to find out where Codi Bigsby might be and what may have happened to him. Nothing that occurred has shaken my confidence surrounding whether or not we paid attention to the right person or whether or not we've missed some key detail. We have not. Our investigation is sound. Moving forward, we will continue to look at all the evidence. Many of you have reported some of the work that we did this weekend. We are searching different areas of the city. We are exploring the forensic evidence even further. We're continuing to take this investigation wherever the facts are going to take us. I deeply regret what I found out on Friday. Make no mistake about it. I am extremely disappointed with not only having to be the distraction that I spoke of previously, but I'm disappointed that we have done anything that may have slowed us down on our quest to bring justice to this child. That will be handled appropriately. Anybody who didn't live up to the standards that are important to us will be held accountable. And we will make sure that we continue to work as hard as we possibly can to bring more facts forward in this case and ultimately bring some degree of justice. With that, I will take your questions.
Has the lead detective been dismissed from the case?
We have a new leadership team and a new lead detective that we are going to have take over the case.
Okay, and that's enough of this press conference. If you pay attention to his demeanor in this press conference, this is why I really don't believe he knew that Corey's request had been denied, because Chief Talbot comes across to me as a real stand-up guy with real morals and ethics, and not the type of officer who's going to do underhanded things or try to cut it close or whatever like that. He comes across to me as if he had been in that interrogation room or observing that interrogation, he would have shut it down right then. Hey, he asked for a lawyer. And so I think it was really humble of him to come up here and to sincerely apologize for what happened with Corey being denied an attorney. I mean, Chief Talbot, I believe he would have the same feeling about that situation as I have. It's not so much about that ABC, that POS Corey, as it is about not damaging the case for justice for Codi. And I think that was and is his main concern, as well as mine. So let's see what else we can dig up. I think I think I think I found the interview that I was talking about, or at least the piece of it, the relevant piece of it. So I'm going to play that. I couldn't find the full interview. I've been looking for it for days, the full press conference, but I haven't been able to find it. This is a snippet, I think, of that
7:32 this morning,
conference.
we continue to cover the search for Codi Bigsby. The 4-year-old was reported missing in Hampton more than 10 days ago.
Now, despite the time that's passed, his family and the community are still holding out hope. 10 on your side, Kiana Patterson is live in the newsroom with new information as this investigation continues. Kiana?
Yes, the police chief, Mark Talbot, says officers are continuing to search for answers. And this morning, Corey Bigsby is still in jail. Search for his missing 4-year-old son, Codi. Last night, the police chief shared an update with Hampton City Council. The police division wrapped up their command center at Buckrow Point last week. Now officers are following up on leads and evidence gathered from the family home. The chief says this is a high-profile case that has been intense and stressful for police and the community. But Talbot says they will continue to follow the evidence.
It was very clear to us. The evidence about what likely occurred has been very clear. There's little about this that has been mysterious. We've tried hard to avoid a search for a 4-year-old boy in a tragedy, an unmitigated tragedy. We didn't want it to become a sideshow. We will continue to work and do everything we possibly can to figure out what happened to this child.
And a group of community activists and volunteers also attended the meeting.
So that was the key point that he made when he says it's been pretty clear from the beginning what happened. And I believe that what he was suggesting is that from jump, they did not believe my son is missing in any way. I believe that from the very beginning they suspected foul play, which I also believe is why they only allowed like 50 searchers at a time, because why do we need a bunch of searchers if what we believe happened is that this young man is deceased? So let's skip over to the new stuff. And I am kind of really in shock and amazement that he is out and walking free now with a murder charge over his head when they adamantly refused to give him a bond repeatedly when he was in there on neglect and abuse charges. It seems to me that, logically speaking, based on the severity of the charges, he would have been more apt to get a bond on the neglect charges than on the murder charges. And that brings me back to what I was saying. His lawyer is a beast. And I am really hoping and praying that she does not find a way to get him off based on what happened with the original lead detective in the interrogation room. I can guarantee you that that woman is researching every little bit of case law that she can possibly throw at the court to get them to throw out, dismiss, or reduce the murder charge based on the denial of legal representation. Um, she just has that vibe about her. Yeah, Sleuthia, I'm so glad to be live again. I've had a lot going on, but I think afternoons are going to be my thing now, or like around this time of day. Um, it's kind of work. It's just my schedule has been changing so much. Like I'll have where I'm supposed to be somewhere, then all of a sudden it's canceled or rescheduled or whatever, and so I keep having to reschedule and missing and rescheduling. But I think anywhere from like 11 to about 3 in the afternoon is going to be a perfect time for me from now on. Now, back to Corey. So they're thinking that he did whatever he did to Codi on July 18th of 2021. That's also my brother's birthday, God rest his soul. But that's like 7 months before, well, June 18th. That's like 7 months before he was reported missing. And that kind of disturbs me because we see how when there's an extended period of time between whatever happens to the child and the time that the child is reported quote unquote missing, that it becomes harder and harder to find or piece together information, clues, evidence. We see that with uh, Isabella Kalua, Ariel Sellers. It was only about a month from the time that she was, only about a month between the time she was reported missing and the time that something happened to her. Something happened to her, they believe, on the 18th of August that year, and she was reported missing on the 13th of September. And in that time, they were able to basically erase any hint at where she is. We still have not found Ariel's body. We still don't know what happened to her, where they put her. Oakley Carlson, still unfound. Harmony Montgomery, still unfound. And the longer the period of time between the child's, between whatever incident with the child and the time that the child is reported missing or found to be missing, it just makes it so much harder. Um, Now, one thing that I kept in mind, you remember they were doing the search and they found that child's jacket, the blue jacket or coat during their search. And we never heard anything else about it. I am wondering, was that Codi's coat? I still have that question in my mind. Was this Codi's? Was this part of why they feel, did it count in any way towards them charging him with homicide? Because it was a coat that would have been his size. It was relatively close to the house. Had someone been trying to get rid of evidence, it's quite likely that they could have thrown it in the water, thinking, not being familiar with how that water works and not knowing that it would eventually recede and expose whatever was under it. there's just so many ifs and maybes in this case that it's really hard to say. But I'm not going to be on here much longer. I have something to do at noon. I have really enjoyed being here with you guys again, talking about this case. I'm going to try to come back on this afternoon. I really want to get back into the swing of being on here, reporting on these cases, and just talking about um, awareness and advocacy. So, for now, I'm going to say goodbye, and I will see you guys later. Thanks for joining me.